Rahnwet na.
Pohnpei. Pohnpei. Pohnpei.
Rahnwet na.
Pohnpei.
Hello, Kasalelye, and welcome back to Rahnwet na Pohnpei, a weekly radio program that shares topics of importance and interest. Today, we are honored to welcome representatives from the Activism Department of Health and Social Services, joining us to discuss a topic of global significance: the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Let's give a warm welcome to our today's guest. Please introduce yourself and tell us what is 16 days of activism.
Good morning, Program Manager Ms. Calio. We're from the Department of Health and Social Affairs, and my name is Augustine Su, and I oversee the youth program as well as the disability program.
I am Takekoi Fandlik, Digital Gender Coordinator.
The campaign started in 1991 by the Center for Women's Global Leadership, the Center and participation of the first Women's Global Institute on Women, Violence, and Human Rights, called for a global campaign. 16 days to highlight violence against women as a global issue and create the public awareness about what needs to change at the local, national, regional, and international levels. The 16 days started on 25th November, which is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and ends on December 10th, which is International Human Rights Day, to highlight that violence against women is a fundamental violence of human rights. The campaign is significant because violence against women happens in every country in the world, and it is often accepted as normal behavior, but it has international impacts, or in other words, violence against women causes harm to the victims and to their children and will continue down the generations if it is not stopped. It also impacts everyone else in the family and community. At the national level, where we have a victim of violence in the home, it limits full enjoyment of development and also slows or stops development because victims do not participate as well as they should. Individual examples include victims missing work, children not performing well at school, victims not contributing to community discussions on development projects because they are depressed, and mothers not giving their all to look after and raise children because of the pain in their hearts and minds and body. We must create awareness to stop violence against women. During the 16 days, we also commemorate World's AIDS Day on December 1st, International Day for Persons with Disabilities on December 3rd, Human Rights Defenders Day, November 29th, International Volunteers Day, December 5th, and International Human Rights Day, December 10th, which is today. We also have other activities for the public and specific groups, including young children and young people, and we have media campaigns. The theme for Activism for the 16th Day of Activism this year is Protect Families, Break the Silence, and I stand to eliminate violence against women and girls.
Kalangan Mr. Su, please explain what is the gender campaign about.
The Department of Health and Social Affairs have a mandate to ensure that gender is considered in government, in all departments and programs. We also can work with states where they can request us to support them with gender work. We also have had a long working relationship with states through different programs to support them to advance working relationship with states through different programs to support them to advance gender. An example is the 2-yearly FSM National Women's Forum, where all the states and the national government come together to discuss gender issues, strategies, and solutions. The Social Affairs Division coordinates the Women's Forum in partnership with the National Women's Council, States Women Councils, and associations and states governments. We also work with states with family protection laws, digital gender, and the 2 key national policies, which are the Gender Equality Policy and the Eliminating Violence Against Women Policy.
Kalangan, can you tell us what is gender-based violence and how does it manifest in our communities?
Gender-based violence is violence that is inflicted or caused on a person because of their gender. So gender refers to men and women and their roles and responsibilities. Men are expected to behave in a certain way and do certain things. And women are also expected to behave in a certain way and do certain things. These roles and responsibilities are there to ensure we contribute to our way of life. When life changes, expectations for women and men should also change. Sometimes it doesn't. For example, a woman expected to cook, but sometimes women work as nurse or policymakers and they have to be at work early in the morning or during lunch. Their roles change because of work. And this is the fine example, and the solution is that their partners or sons will cook. However, there are some people who are not flexible to change to gender expectations. Over time, studies and observations tell that the majority of victims are women and girls. So there is a power that rests with men in that they sometimes think it's their responsibility to beat women and girls to behave instead of stepping undertake the roles and responsibilities and support them. Examples of gender-based violence, or also known as GBV, are domestic violence. This includes physical beatings and forcing girls to get married before the age of 18.
Today is Human Rights Day. Can you tell us more about it?
International Human Rights Day is observed on December 10 to honor the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations General Assembly in 1948. The day is celebrated to remind us of our entitlement to our human rights and freedoms regardless of who we are, where we are from, our gender, our age, and our religion. In FSM, we have our human rights and freedoms too, and they are not just words, they are our legal entitlements. We can claim them. Our national and state constitutions set out our human rights. Human rights are basic freedoms and rights that we need to survive as human beings. Their being in the UDHR and in our laws says that if anyone violates our human rights, there is a response by the police or by the courts or responsible government authorities. At the international level, the UN can also intervene for serious human rights violations. We have the following rights in our constitutions: freedom of expression, peaceable assembly, association or petition, freedom of religion, rights to life, liberty and property, equal protection of law regardless of sex, race, ancestry, national origin, language or social status, right to privacy of the home, right to a fair trial, capital punishment is prohibited. Rights to be free from slavery and involuntary servitude. Freedom of movement. It is important to also note that we have our rights and freedoms, but we must also respect the rights and freedoms of others. The government is the key to the bearer to ensure our rights and freedoms are respected, protected, and fulfilled. But all also have a duty to respect each other as well.
As we conclude today's discussion on the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to our guests from the FSM Department of Health and Social Services for this important campaign. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in and being part of this important conversation. Until next time, Kalangan Kasalelye.